fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back. Got my main man, Boris, the Draggunning Junkie. This dude is slaying big snook, big reds, big tarpon, basically anything. I even saw one massive permit, pretty much all from shore or bridges. I mean, he's just, I know we're going to talk about bridge hopping and going off the piers and the jetties. And this is a question that comes up a lot. You know, a lot of our topics are a little bit more kayak and boat based, and we haven't done as much on wade fishing and just fishing from shore in general. And I was talking to Captain Peter Deeks, who's one of our fishing coaches for our Insider Club, and he's like, man, you got to get this guy Draggunning Junkie on the podcast. And I'm looking into him. I'd seen the name before, and I'm even looking up stuff on YouTube, and I keep seeing the music videos come up with Monster Mike, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. I was crying, laughing, listening to the lyrics of the box. And first and foremost, though, welcome to the show, Boris.
Man, how you doing, brother? It's an honor to be here.
So I gotta ask.
It's an honor to be here.
I gotta ask real quick. Draggunning Junkie. Talk about the name and the two G's in there.
Yeah, man, it's pretty simple. Like, I've been fishing pretty much all my life. So, like, growing up in the hood, I grew up in the hood. And whatnot. And as a kid, I always, I used to watch a lot of fishing shows. And I looked up to guys like Flip Talley, Timmy Houston, Blair Wiggins, a lot of guys that were on TV and stuff like that. Yep. And I don't know if you remember back in the day, I used to watch TNN Outdoors. It used to come on like every Saturday on TV. And there used to be a showcase cable show. But as a kid, one thing that always infatuated me was when I would see these guys fishing, and they would be pulling in these big fish, and their drags would be screaming and their drags would be pulling, So I just always remember that, and it always had this photo imagery in my head of drag running, And I told myself, I said, man, one day I'm gonna make some drag run. And by the time I got a little older, I was able to invest in some good quality tackle and stuff like that. And I got on the Instagram scene, and I began to become social with the other fishermen. I told myself, I said, I have to have a handle. I have to have a way to identify myself, and something that'll make me stand out so people know that I'm serious. And I guess I was having a talk with God one day on the water, and I was like, Lord, how do I do this? Who do I call myself? And it just popped in my head, Draggunning Junkie. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And from there it was on.
That's awesome, man. So are you Miami? Is that you're South Florida, right?
Yes, sir. I'm based in Miami, Florida, North Miami Beach area, South Miami. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the state sometimes, but I'm home based in Miami. And the North Miami Beach area, Haulover area, if you're familiar.
Yep, cool. And you were in, the Keys last night? Like killing tarpon? Like not killing them, slaying tarpon?
Yeah, I was in the Keys going crazy on the tarpon, man. I bounced around a bit, did a little bridge hopping. Because like in the Keys, it's like, the fish, they pot up wherever the bait is at. And with these moon phases that we have right now, they like to get on those shadow lines. Anytime the moon has some boldness, some brightness, the tarpon stack up on the shadow line, and wherever the stronger currents are at, it's going to be the better bait push. So I just had to bounce on the bridges, see which bridges had the best current, which bridges had the strongest shadow lines. And once I found them, man, we got on them and we nailed them hard.
All from the bridge.
All from the bridge, yep, all from land.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking at your Instagram feed, and it looks like half the pictures are at nighttime. You're sitting there in the water there with man, and this is big tarpon. These aren't little juvenile tarpon either. So about half of it you're at night, half in the day from piers and bridges.
Yep.
What's I assume, are you fishing every day? I guess is the question. Is this something you get to do every day?
I put in a lot of time. Because I'm a part-time guide. I do a little guiding.
Cool.
So I have to be on the water, keeping tabs on the fish, checking the patterns, knowing this, knowing that, so I always have to stay on top of it. So I put in actually a lot of time, but I don't fish all the time because from experience, I already know that some conditions just aren't favorable to go. So when I know it's not good, the wind's not strong enough, if, the moon ain't right and the water clarity isn't good or the top ain't right, I don't waste my time because I already know they'll have lockjaw. But when the conditions are ideal and, I make good predictions, my instincts tell me get out there, and that's how I stay on top of them.
All right, well, let's that's awesome, man. Let's dig a little deeper into the bad times, right? Because I think that's what most weekend warriors, everyone wants to avoid making the mistakes. What are the keys, especially for wade fishermen? If you're in a boat, you can go find cleaner water and things like that. But if you're basically stuck fishing bridges and piers and fishing from land, what are some of the signals where you're like, man, I am not going to waste my time?
Well, no wind, number one. Because from land, especially using artificial like jigs, swim baits, big plugs, or whatever it may be that you use. Live bait, you can generate bites on slow nights with live bait, but I do a lot of artificial. So on nights when there's no wind means a flat, calm current, means clear water, means no chopping. The fish like it a little rough, They like it a little rough. They like the water with a good tint to it. And those are the better nights. So on nights when there's no wind, when the water's clear, I look for natural signs. Like if I'm fishing an inlet or a bridge, I look for birds. Birds give me some insight on the bait, that's pushing through. So if I get out and I see a few pelicans, a few seagulls around, I know, okay, yeah, some bait there. If I go out and I don't see any birds, I don't feel any wind, I see the water is clear, I already know that it's not going to be a good bite that night. And some nights too, in Miami, on the full moon, we have good tarpon fishing. We do good with tarpon, but the snook, they vanish on full moons in Miami. I don't know what it is, but they don't like it. And I would think, that they would because, we get stronger tides and stuff like that. But one thing it does in Miami, it makes the water clear. And when the water gets clear in Miami, man, the snook get locked off. But the tarpon, they hold strong to the bridge shadow lines on full moon. And sometimes we get good bait pushes on the full moon and the fish fire up. Yeah.
Interesting, man. So is there any time, like in terms of, too much wind? Like obviously if you're, having a gale force hurricane, you're not going to go out, but what's like the prime time and the best moon, the best tide? What's on the flip side, what's like the ideal situation for you?
Yeah. Okay. The ideal conditions are 15 to 20 knots. East winds are best in Miami, because those are the nights that we get the stronger bait pushes and we get the right water tint. Any south pattern, like southwest, southeast, south, we get good water tint and we get decent bait pushes on those nights. I look for birds, like I said, I look for the good water color, and I like a nice moderate chop. Because the tarpon, the big tarpon, is funny, but they like surfers, bro. They like to ride the waves. So when I work these jigs, I work them close to the surface, and it's kind of like I work my lure on the top of the water column, riding the wave, and that's actually how I get a lot of my strikes, if you can kind of visualize that. But that the moon phases vary. Sometimes like a quarter moon, a half moon. Those are good nights for snook. No moon. Around new moon, the snook bite real good in Miami. Full moon, the tarpon light up, the snook get absent. But the best conditions I would say in the Miami area would be any south wind pattern and the east wind. West winds, they flatten out our currents a lot, and those are nights when the bite are typically slow. The water's pretty clear and stuff like that, and the bait push isn't good. But when I go out, I just look for good wind. A good east pattern, 15 to 20 knots ideally. Once you get into like the 25, 30 gale force area, the fish are a little uncomfortable, and the water is so murky by then that you don't really get a chance to get any bites like that. But it depends on what time of year as well. If it's like a mullet run, springtime mullet run, fall time mullet run, when there's ridiculous amounts of bait pushing, they bite pretty good still. But just like in the winter time and other seasons, they don't do as well.
What about incoming or outgoing tides? How important is that?
Well, those are very important, and they also vary with the season. This time of year in Miami, the winter time going into the spring, we have what you call the shrimp run. So the shrimp typically pushes on the incoming tide, typically, but that's in the North Miami area. So the bait pushes in the North Miami. It's funny. It pushes in the North Miami area on the incoming tide, but in the south part of Miami, the bait pushes on the outgoing tide. So on the incoming tide, it's typically when the snook bite good, and on the outgoing tide, the tarpon bite better. But the tides vary. I actually do good with artificial on either or tide, as long as they're bait pushing. But when I go to like my lure selection, I use different colors for each tide. Like
really?
Like on the incoming tide, I work white lures. Like I use white jigs. I may use a white color swim bait and light colored lures. And on the outgoing tide, I use chartreuse. I use red, rainbow colors, all type of colors. Yep.
That's crazy. And you can actually tell a difference, huh?
Yep, you can tell a lot of the difference. I actually have a few colors that work exceptionally well compared to other colors for each tide. It's like if you go one in the same night, because some nights I get a good bite on both tides, depending on the bait push. But if I go on incoming, and I'm throwing a jig, I'll be throwing a white and blue. That's like the tarpon's favorite color. If I'm going on the outgoing, I'll be throwing that white and blue and not really get many strikes. But say I throw a chartreuse in blue, they'll hit it real good. So each tide I'll switch up my lure colors and stuff like that to keep the bites going.
That's so cool. And let's talk about the bull reds too, because I know you've got a ton of big old bull reds that you're catching as well. Are you targeting them, or is this more? Are you still more the snook?
I'm targeting them. Targeting them. I go a little north, around the Sebastian area, and that's mainly where I target the bull reds. And I have a few tricks for them, but a lot of it is just good predictions and being in the right place at the right time. As far as the bull reds go, ask me something specific about them.
Here's a good one, and I've seen people do I think what you're going to say is probably the incorrect answer is not having enough weight to get down to the bottom, right? And I know there's some times of the year, like really slim times in like Sebastian, let's just say, where you can catch bull reds up near the top, but am I right to say that the majority of time that you're not going to get the strikes unless you got a lure or a bait down to the bottom? Yep.
Definitely. Yep. When I target the bull reds, I go to Sebastian and I put in an exceptional amount of time. But my predictions are based on these factors. I need to know how cold it is because they like it when it's cold. They like it in between 40, sometimes up to 60. But if it's not in between 40, 50, 60s, they don't really bite artificial good. You can catch them on cut bait, like cut mullet, cut bunker, cut ladyfish. I've even caught them on chunk bluefish, But as far as artificial, I like to fish the outgoing tide, and I use typically jigs and lures that are 2 to 3 ounces because you have to be able to cast really far and get it on the bottom. Like a lot of times the fish hole in the middle of the channel. So if you don't have a long enough rod, if you don't have the right braid that's cutting the wind, and you don't have the right weight lure, you're not gonna get in the strike zone. And a lot of times that's what happens. I see people go out there, and I have to give them a hint, like, we catching fish, but you're not getting out there where they at. So let me tell you what to do. And ideally, a 2 to 3 ounce lure will get you in the strike zone. And my favorite lures for Sebastian for the Reds this time of year would be First Light Tackle Flare Hawks, and it's a new lure, a swim bait, and no live bait needed swim bait because they come with a 3 ounce jig head, and the fish like the profile of the lure, and they get a lot of strikes.
First Light Tackle, huh?
Yeah.
So is
Light Tackle
is the biggest issue that you're seeing some of these guys are having like 1 ounce jigs and they're just not getting anywhere close to where they need to be?
Yeah, they're not getting anywhere close because the fish, they hold in the middle of the channel. It's like you cast out 20, 30 yards, you got a ledge right there. And then the fish, they don't just be on the ledge. They actually be in the middle of the channel. So you got to get it way out there. And once you get it out there, you have to let that jig or that lure fall into the current where it lands. Like some people, they cast and they immediately close the bill, and the only thing happens is they bait get swept in close to them.
Yep.
When I cast out far, I leave my bill open. All right, I let that lure fall. I give it a few seconds. I close it and I make sure I catch it before I snag. That's the trick. You got to be kind of quick. So I catch it before I snag. Now, once I feel that bottom terrain, I give a slow, steady presentation. It's called a sweep, and I just work it along the bottom real good, and that's how I get a lot of my strikes. Sometimes they like it with a twitch, you give it a little rhythm. Sometimes they like it just real smooth and steady along the bottom. Yeah.
And talk about the sweep and the importance of retrieving it with the current as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay, with the sweep, how I like to work it, I cast up current, right? So I cast far as I can up current. And that gives my jig or my lure the opportunity to fall down in the current and get in the strike zone where I want it, in front of me so I can have the right angle. So once it gets on the bottom, I close my bill, I hold my rod at an angle, and I reel very slow and steady. And I use 60 to 80 pound leader, 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader, because it's thicker and it slows your bait down in the current, and it makes the sweep pretty smooth, so it gives the fish a chance to like really see it and get mad and peck it. And I work that sweep nice and slow and steady as possible along the bottom. It's like the more steady the presentation and the more steady your hand and the better the angle of your rod, the better and more probable you're going to get a strike. And when I'm working the twitch, it's like a little jig technique, a little drift and jig technique. I cast up current the same way, let it fall. Once I get close to the bottom, kind of walk with it and switch it, double twitch it. And I don't retrieve it though. It's like imagine holding your rod at an angle, right? And you just walking at the pace of the current, and you twitching it, and you let it fall again, and you keep that angle with your rod, and you twitch it until you come into the school of fish, and they'll let you know where you're at. So once you find where they at, you just keep that method, and that's how I can drill in the fish after fish after fish. Because once I dial into where the school is at, I just keep using that same presentation, and I keep getting the bites like that.
So that comes to the big $1 million question, and we had a guy. He's been following us for a long time, and he sent us an email just a day or so ago, and he's from Canada. Hardcore fisherman. He's never fished down in Florida at all, and he's coming to Sebastian to camp for a few days. And he wants to catch some big reds and snook, and he's asking questions about like, hey, where do I fish on the pier? And obviously that's $1 million question. I've been out there with Captain Peter Deeks and others, and my brother Luke used to live there. Some days you're marking the schools of fish in one spot, and then just a few days later they're in a completely different area. So how? Yeah. Like what's the trick to dial in where the school is?
All right, yeah. Sebastian is a pretty big inlet.
Yep.
So the fish got a lot a lot of areas and a lot of holding spots. So they can be almost anywhere they want to be at any time, but ideally they stage up in a few areas. When I'm fishing jigs, it's typically on the North Jetty because the South Jetty is a lot more shallow, a lot more rocks. You're going to snag a lot there. So when I'm fishing jigs, I'm on the North Jetty, and I start at the middle of the pier, right?
And why is that?
That's because that's where the channel is deep at.
Okay.
It's where the channel is deep at, and starting in that section is not a lot of hang-ups. Because if you go at the beginning of the pier and you try to cast out far, it's a lot of hang-ups there. Once you get like to the middle of the jetty and you cast out far, it's some sand and gravel bottom, so you can actually work the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I start there, and that's where I start working my jigs at. Now for snook, the snook are a little more tricky to get a bite out of than the redfish because the snook, they like a very smooth sweep, and if you don't have a steady hand and you're not retrieving that like the perfect pace, you know, you're not gonna get the strike. That's the tricky part about them. Like they really like to see it low and slow. That's how we say, you know, low and slow. So
and then when you're doing that, be prepared to have quite a few extra jig heads or jigs with you too, man. Dang.
Definitely. When you're fishing jigs, man, you gotta go with the bunch because at any given moment you can snag. But as you learn the underwater terrain, you know, by casting so many and getting hung up here and getting a bite there, you kind of get like a 3D vision of what under the water looks like, and you'll know where to cast at and where not to cast. So I just concentrate on the areas that I know, you know, I don't get hung up a lot, where I can feel the gravel, I can feel the sand on the bottom, and where I know the fish pocket at, you know, and get the strikes. Certain pockets in the middle of the inlet, I always get good snook strikes. Certain parts further out, I always get the big red strikes. And on each tide, what's funny is that the fish will move from one area to the other. Now, if you're fishing incoming tide, sometimes the fish are on the beach side of the pier, which is like the north side of the jetty. So when I'm fishing that side, I throw jigs on that side too, believe it or not, and it's all sand bottom. But what has to be going on, it has to be cold enough for them to be on that side. So when they're on that side, I just cast out far, and I let it touch the bottom on the sand, and I retrieve it nice and slow along the bottom, as steady as possible. And that's how I get a lot of strikes on that side. And on the outgoing side, I work in the channel. Yep, and then another area the fish like to stage up in is right before you walk onto the pier. Like it's right before you walk onto the pier, there's you'll see it's like a little area that looks almost like a little beach area. And in that area we like to throw X-Rafts, and we like to throw bombers, and we like to throw different types of plugs and stuff. It's a bit more shallow, not really the area you want to throw jigs in because you're going to snag a lot. But it's a good spot to throw plugs and X-Rafts and different types of lures like that, Yozuris or whatever they may be. And you get a lot of strikes there from snook and from the reds there as well.
That's
awesome. Then, and if you transition on the south side, it's mainly plugs, jerk baits, stuff like that over there. And swim baits, spool techs work pretty good on the south side sometimes. You know, like the floating plugs. One of the ones that I like to use are the tactical angler sub darters. Some fishermen are familiar with them, some aren't. It's a secret bait that works real well for redfish and snook on the south side. And that's about it with that.
And so you're not having to get on the bottom. It's not as critical on the other side, on the south side.
No, on the south side, you don't have to get on the bottom. The south side is actually where they will come to the top and give you strikes. It's actually where they will come to the top. Like when we use bombers, the wind cheaters, we'll cast them out far and we'll actually float them out. float them out pretty far. Float them out 50 yards. Sometimes the fish are further than that, you know. And you pretty much just cast them out pretty far in the middle of the channel. You close your bell, and you let the current just carry the lure out, right? And as it goes out, you'll feel it wibble, you know, and out of nowhere you'll get a strike. But it's just pretty much having a steady hand to keep the action on the lure moving with the flow of the current and working it like that. And then sometimes people use poppers. You know, everybody has what they like. I've actually gotten some weird strikes, like pretty much top water bites on the south side. And it was pretty fun when they bite like that.
Heck yeah, man.
But yeah. But for the most part, it's gonna be like extract bombers and lures like that. No jigs really, because you don't snag a lot of the stuff.
So are you finding that most of your fishing is done around inlets and bridges, or are you ever like going, you know, way in the backcountry and trying to find little bays and stuff like that?
Ideally, I fish the inlets and bridges because where there's deeper water and there's stronger current is usually where the bigger, more athletic fish are.
Yep.
And that's what I like. I like the big, pretty, clean, strong fish, you know, that can pull a little extra with the current and like catch the tackle. You know, those are the ones I like. I grew up fishing spillways, you know, in bay areas, mangroves, and backcountry and stuff like that. That was kind of how I started. And those fish, I kind of grew out of them. You know, it's still fun sometimes because they give you good bites and stuff like that. But me, I'm just a jetty bridge type of guy because another thing, an advantage about bridge fishing is that you can sight fish a lot of the fish. So when I'm on certain bridges and I know how to spot the fish on the shadow line, I get a chance to present my lure and watch them eat it, you know, and that's a fun way to target them. So I concentrate on bridges and inlets and jetties, anywhere strong water, you know, deep water and structure, and a good flow of bait. Because the thing about the inlets, the bridges, and the jetties is that the fish stack up a lot harder than they seem to do like in the backcountry. In Miami, our backcountry, you know, we got like islands and mangroves and certain canals and river mouths and different settings or whatnot. But you may go on a good night and you may get, you know, 2-3 good snook, you know, a few good tarpon. But when our jetties are hot and our inlets and our bridges are hot, it's like nonstop action all night. So I like to go where I can get like more shots at the fish, especially like fishing with jigs and certain lures. It's kind of hard to keep the tarpon on. So I need more bites. I need more chances. So I have to go where the fish are stacked up and solid at to be able to try to get on that.
It's all in your name, man. The Draggunning Junkie.
Yeah.
So don't waste my time on those little small fish in the backcountry. So what's your kind of go-to, you know, rod and reel? What kind of size you talking? Because I mean, you're catching some massive fish, and when you start talking about the crazy amount of structure I know that's down there, and then you start getting current ripping, I mean, you got to have something pretty tough. What are you using?
Yeah, I use right now my main two setups are I use a Van Stahl VSB 200 with Shimano Therese 7.6 40 to 100 pound rating, and that's my big one. But I have another setup that's my backup setup that's pretty big too, but it's just not as heavy as that one. But my backup rod is actually longer, and I'm gonna tell you why I use each setup as my go-tos for you know which reason or whatnot. I use the Therese and the Van Stahl when I have to fight big fish on tight structure. Like if I know I'm going to be fishing in a spot where I don't have much space to stop a big snook from running and breaking me off on a bridge piling, or running and breaking me off on some rocks or some, you know, whatever it may be, I like to use my Therese rod because it's shorter, so I can gain faster, and it's a very strong rod. It's actually a rod that's for vertical jigging, and people like to use them like for vertical jigging for tuna and stuff like that. And I just got it as a rod to use on these types of fish, you know, and be able to really pull on them. And I use 50-pound braid on that reel. The VSB, it has 42 pounds of drag, and I catch pretty solid fish on it. And then my backup rod is a Shimano Saragossa 8000, and I use an Ocean Master carbon coil 9-foot rod. It's it was actually a pretty cheap rod, but it's like one of the best rods I ever had. It's 9 feet. It's a 15 to 30, but you wouldn't know because it's like a broom. But I like it because I use it on the jetty for casting.
Yep.
It helps me cast real far. And the Shimano Saragossa is a very smooth reel, and the drag is pretty good on it. Probably about 30 pounds, 27, 30 pounds of drag. And I use 30 to 40 pound braid on that because I want something that can cut the wind a little better than 50. It's thinner, so I can get further cast. And I do good with either or setup. I've caught a lot of big fish on both of them. And if you really want to catch something big from shore, those are the type of setups you use. I catch sharks on them. I catch big reds, 100+ pound tarpon. It's really nothing from land I can't do with it.
I love it, man. And in the first light tackle, those flare hawks is kind of like the go-to. Is that, I know you use a lot of stuff, but is that kind of if you could only have one, that's what you use?
Yeah, those are ideally my go-to. But the thing about them is they work better sometimes a year than others. All right? Like, the best time to use them for snook is in the summer and in the spring. Those are my favorite times to use them for snook in Miami, in the summer and in the spring. All right, the best time to use them in Miami for tarpon is the winter, in the spring, and sometimes in the fall. And if I'm fishing Sebastian, the Keys, or wherever else, where the fish they aren't as skittish or finicky, I can use them almost year round, you know. But in Miami, our fish, like, certain times of year, man, they act funny. Certain times of year, they want what they want, and they don't care how many times you throw it, they won't bite it. So, but primarily my go-to would be that lure. I use a few swim baits. The no-live bait needed swim bait has become one of my favorites. Spool techs, they work well. And sometimes I use like big X-Wraps or bombers, and I get good strikes on those as well. And, yep.
Cool.
But, yep, those are my favorites.
What were you using last night for those tarpon?
First light jigs.
You were, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
First light jigs. I was nailing them with those. I was using two of my favorite colors, the chartreuse and blue and the white and blue. Those seem to be like my universal tarpon colors. It doesn't matter where I'm at, where you're at. If you use those two colors, those are going to be the colors that you get strikes on. And I think it's because in the Keys where I was at, there's a lot of baits like ballyhoo that run. So I believe ideally the blue and white jig kind of resembles a ballyhoo to them or something, and they strike it like crazy. So last night I lost count on how many fish I hooked. I lost some real big ones, you know, probably in the 130, 140 pound range that I had good battles out of, but they end up getting away. And I landed fish up to 70 pounds.
Nice.
So it was pretty fun last night.
Heck yeah, man. All from shore, huh?
Yep, all from shore.
Man, too cool. So what's...
And, you know, you can do it too, man. You can do it too, man. You just get out there and give it to them.
Oh, we're gonna go fishing together, man. We're gonna make that happen.
Come on, man. Let's get on it, man. Let's go.
So what's the craziest story? I remember seeing that one massive permit. What's kind of like the a memorable or crazy story that's happened?
Man, I got a few. You talking about with fish that I caught or the ones that got away?
Either one, man.
I got some stories about the ones that got away.
Those are the ones that keep you up at night.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story first. I'll tell you a story about the permit, right?
Yeah.
So I rode up to Sebastian. For some reason, I just got real good fish instinct. And when I get like a little, it's just a random thought pops in my head. I get a little itch, and I just feel like a urge to go to a certain area. And it can be any time of year, but something to be pulling me, and I'll feel it. I'm like, why do I feel like going to Sebastian right now? Why do I? And typically, when I feel that way, I go to the spot and I stumble up on some type of epic bite. So I went to Sebastian. It was just like in the off season. It wasn't in the wintertime or anything like that. It was probably in the spring. And I went to Sebastian. I walked on the jetty, and I probably was catching snook. And then a guy that was next to me, he caught a permit, and it was probably like 10 or 15 pounds. So I was like, wow, I never really seen nobody catch a permit there like that. And then he caught another one, and I watched him catch like 2 or 3. So ideally, I know how to catch permit, so I said, man, I need to catch me some permit. But I didn't have any crabs, and they were eating live crabs. So that night, I pretty much got skunked. So I said, you know what, I'm going to drive all the way back to Miami, and I'm going to get me a bunch of blue crabs, and I'm going to come back. So I left. I went to Miami. I drove back the following day, and I was there at pretty much the same time when they did the day before. And I ended up catching 3 permit back to back, one up to 30 pounds. So like 2 15-pounders and one up to 30 pounds. Yep. And after that, they like vanished. And from what I learned from the local guys, it was like, that's like one of the most random bites they get is their little permit run. Sometimes it's a few days, a week or 2 or something like that. And I just happened to stumble up on them at the right time. They say right place, right time, So yeah, I got rewarded for that. It took me a little gas, and I had to leave and come back or whatnot, but it was well worth it, the experience catching a trophy fish like that. And it was a blessing all in itself. I learned a bit too.
Dang.
But now I'm gonna tell you a story about a fish that got away that still haunts me to this day after years and years and years and years and years. All right, so a few years ago, me and one of my buddies, we were off the coast of Miami, probably in about 150 feet, 200 feet. And we were trolling around and live lining baits for tuna, sails, and stuff like that. And it was one of those days where the weather was so bad, that nobody wanted to go out. Yeah. And even the guys on the big boats, they saw us going on. They were like, y'all are crazy. Because my boy, he had a little 21-foot dusky. And everybody else was like, yo, y'all are crazy going out there. Even the guy that sold us bait, he was like, I don't know how y'all doing it. And we was like, man, we couldn't send it anyway. We couldn't go out there. Because for me, his experience seems like when the weather is real bad, the sailfish will bite good, the kingfish will bite good, and the tunas will fire up. So we got out there, and we were trolling around. We probably got to like 200 or so feet. And we got in a little swirl, and we were hooking blackfin tunas like every little drift because we kept drifting past this area, and then we marked them, and we would just keep backtracking, and like every drift, we were hooking in the blackfin tunas. We was catching like 10-pound footballs or whatnot.
That's fun.
And then, we started getting low on bait, and at the bottom of the bait well, it just so happened to be like the biggest baits of the day. So we had these hands that had to be like 7-8 inches, 7-8 inch hands. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna catch a big blackfin or whatnot. So I put it on, and it was probably gonna be like our last drift or so. And I hooked the fish, and I thought it was a blackfin, but it never stopped running. Now I'm gonna tell you the setup I was using. I was using a Cousins A1A 9-foot 15 to 30 with the cork grip and a Van Staal VS 250. So the reel I had about 650 yards of line on it, 650 yards of 50-pound braid, and the rod was pretty much like a broomstick.
Yep.
Now this fish, whatever he was, before we knew what he was, he almost spooled me in like 10 seconds, right? So you can kind of guess to where I'm getting to. So this fish, right, he takes off. So me and my boys are like, oh, we on the biggest tuna of the day. We thinking it's a blackfin until he kept running and he like never stopped. So I told my boy, I'm like, yo, we need to chase him before I get spooled.
Yeah.
So my boy fired up the boat and we shot off after him, you know, and he starts running out in the middle of the ocean in the middle of nowhere. So after about 15 minutes of chasing him, he literally had me down to threads, of braid on my spool. And the only reason I had this fish on is because I was clipping the spool and holding it with lock drag so he couldn't take any more line from me while he pretty much towed the boat, you know, from like hundreds of feet down. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. So after about 15 minutes, I was able to gain maybe 50 yards on my reel, right?
Yeah.
Out of 650 yards that he just took it from me in seconds. And I was like, what kind of fish is this? You know, we was catching tuna and now I'm on this. And the fish started circling around the boat, right? And that's when I was on Instagram Live that day, and the guys who were experienced with big tunas, they were like, you got a real big tuna on. And it was a huge tuna. And he circled around the boat, and he was just giving me like hell on earth, bro. And then he took off again and almost spooled me again. And I had to do the same thing. My boy had to chase it. Before we knew it, we were 10 miles further out into the ocean. And yeah, two hours into the battle, I'm still fighting the fish, but I can barely gain. And the fish was so evil that like every time I got a crank or two in, he would just take all that back from me, you know, and it was getting real frustrating. For a minute, bro, I started to lose my mind fighting this fish. And I was like, I've slain 200-pound tarpon, 450-pound jewfish, but never in my life have I experienced anything like that. And the fish was just beating me up, man. He was just beating me up. Before I knew it, my back was hurting, my shoulders was hurting, my mind was hurting, everything just started hurting. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this any longer. And then I started praying. I'm like, God, please just let the fish break off. I'm done. I don't even want them no more. But God was like, no, you wanted to catch tuna, now you have to do it. So I'm still reeling them in. I'm still fighting. We still battling. And then about 2 hours in, yeah, after me about to lose my mind, and I was sitting on the side of the boat. All I could really do, like I couldn't even crank. I was just deep. I was just holding the rod, and I was like, yo, I got to muster the strength up to be able to bring this fish in because he's not breaking me off. Mind you, I had a 30-pound leader. I had a 30-pound leader with a 30-pound leader with a snip of 50, like maybe 8 inches of 50 at the tip of a 11-foot leader because I was trying to catch sailfish. And I'm like, okay, why hasn't this fish broken me off? But I had him hooked real good, and I had a strong hook. I think I was using a BMC, like a 8-aught or something like that. And I just mustered up some strength, right? So then I started cranking it, and I started giving it to him. And the fish started coming up. So I was like, okay, it's finally over. But this is like 4 hours later. I forgot. Like, this is 4 hours later. We started fighting. We was fighting this fish from the afternoon into the night. You know, chasing him around and going through a lot, bro. And my boys, once I started bringing him up, he got excited. We had other boys. They're like, oh, bro, you got to be world famous. We catch this tuna. And we all excited. We cheering. I'm like, yes, I got him coming up. They were young, you know. And he starts coming up, and we see the color, and he's huge. You know, if I could estimate the fish, he had to been a few hundred pounds, not 2, maybe 4 or 5. You know, like a huge fish. Yeah, bro, like something that would have made me in the newspaper, like for spinning tackle. You know.
Yep.
and it was almost unreal. I couldn't believe that, I was actually pulling in this fish. But lack of experience is what cost us to lose it. Because as I was pulling the fish up, my leader was long, remember?
Yep.
And at the beginning of it, I had swivels. And the swivels could not go through my guide. So I had to back up on the boat with the rod. And as I'm backing up, my boy's like, he's finna leader it, because he wasn't thinking about gassing it or anything like that, because tell you the truth, it's at nighttime and this is a big fish. He wasn't just flocking on the surface. He was probably coming up. I hate to say it, he might have been dead, I don't know. But we saw him and he was coming up. So my boy grabbed the leader. In the moment he grabbed the leader, guess what happens? It broke in his hands. Man. It was miserable after that. It was the worst feeling in the world. Oh man, I was bedridden for 2 weeks. My wife had to nurture me because my back, I felt like I herniated a disc in my back. Dang. My whole body was sore. My mind was sore. That fish just traumatized me, bro. And for me to lose him right there at the boat side after a 4-hour battle, giving it all the skill I had, all the strength I had in my body, it was just horrible, dog. But that's one fish that I'll never forget. And I told myself, when I'm ready, I'm gonna go back out to him. I'm gonna just make sure I got a 50 wide. That guy.
Maybe that was a sign you need to stick to the shore and not go out in the boats offshore, man. That's crazy.
Man, I don't know what it was. I think I got weird big fish luck, because when I go offshore, I always hook something big without really trying. I got good big fish luck. But I see with those offshore fish, man, you gotta bunk that tackle up. You can't go out there playing, because all that van stall stuff, you play with them big cooners, man, they gonna manhandle you.
Yep.
And my rod was too long. I should have had something, shorter, so I could have, got the right advantage on them. But man, this is another fish tale, But I got quite a few victories under my belt with Tarpon. Now I could talk about them too. Some of my most memorable Tarpon catches, I'll talk about one of them.
Yeah.
A few years ago, me and Monster Mike were fishing at my home base spot, which is Hollow Inlet, and it was around the time of the mullet run. And I was catching a lot of big fish around that time. And I think I was using probably a 12-inch mullet. And I cast them out, doing my normal little presentation, drifting them out on outgoing tide, and letting them float out as far as I could. And I was using a Van Stall 275, which is a pretty big one. And I got ate by a big tarpon, but I didn't know that this tarpon was going to be as huge as it was. And if I could estimate what it weighed now, it was probably 225 pounds. It was probably my biggest tarpon to date. And this tarpon fought so hard, it took me about 45, 50 minutes to land it. But it was the most intense battle I ever had, because it was one of those fish that every time he tried to gain, he took everything. He ran this way, he ran that way, and he did a lot. And I was scared the whole time that he was going to bend out my little hook. And but once I got the fish, it was a tremendous feeling. I ended up swinging the fish out the middle of the inlet around the curve, because we got a curve where it's a little light point into the beach area, and I got him on the beach, and we jumped in the water with him, and the fish was so big and so heavy, man, 3 of us could barely pick him up.
Hey.
And it was a huge tarpon, and that was one of my more memorable tarpon battles. Back in the day when I used to target the Jewfish a lot with a few of my buddies, we used to go down in the Keys, around Bahia Honda and stuff, and we used to fish for Jews down there. And those are some memorable moments, because how we used to have to catch them. We used to bridge hop, and we would go piling on the bridge, and we would drop baits down. And I remember one day we got a fish on a piece of Dion's chicken. I don't know if you know about Dion's chicken, fried chicken in the Keys, but they famous. And we ran out of bait because we usually use live bonita or whatnot. And we would go piling till we spot the fish. And we got on the piling where it was like 4 of them down there. So we was like, man, we got a bait, but we got a box of fried chicken. So we finna see if we can get 8 on fried chicken. And when we dropped the piece of a fried chicken thigh down there, we got crushed immediately. And we got up like a 250 pounds alive. And that was a memorable day. That day we probably caught about 4 of them that day. The biggest one was probably a little over 400 pounds. But how we used to catch them, we would go piling, right? And we jump on the piling and we drop the bait down and we'll have a boat sitting right there. So soon as you get 8, soon as you set the hook, you jump on the boat and the boat starts backing out because you got to rip them off the piling and you got to hold on to that rod with all you got. They running their structure, you're done. And I remember one day that I almost got pulled in. And I jumped off that piling on the boat and it started backing up, and I could just hold on for my life, and that fish almost drug me in, and my boys had to grab me. And he came up, and I saw him, and I was like, whoa, he's like a car. Then he dove again, and he felt like he was about to pull me in again, and I'm like 145, 150 at the time, so I had to hold on for dear life. But I actually ended up getting them. We took them like to a little flats area, took some nice pictures and swam them off. But that was a more memorable day for me too.
That's awesome.
And yep. And I got a lot of good times in Miami, man, with our snook fishing. Some nights are so spectacular. I've caught like 30-something snook in one night. This time of year, the same time of year when the shrimp are running, man, they'll be going crazy on shrimp. And I use little techniques with shrimp and stuff like that around the jetty. And once I dial into a big mega part of snook, and I have a gang of guys with me, and all of us be catching them all night.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we gotta make it happen, man. I know just from your Instagram page, that's just a fraction of the fish you're catching. I mean, from what it looks like, you might catch 30 and you might post one.
So that's actually how it is, man. Yeah. I try to give my followers at least a post a week.
Yep.
But I catch so many fish to where I couldn't even post them all if I wanted to because it would just make my page get boring. So I try to keep that balance, give them one at a time. They can digest this and then give them something else good the following week, to keep them tuned in. Because I start posting all these fish, man, they're going to get spoiled and they're going to be like, And I noticed that sometimes I post good fish and I'm like, man, they spoiled. They're not even, commenting, liking this one how they should. It's because I've given them so much, and that's what I like to do. Every time I go out, man, I challenge myself to do better than I did the time before that. I always try to learn something new. I'm always trying to build my tackle, whatever it is. It's all about getting better at the craft, and that's what I concentrate on every time I get out there, man. Being passionate at what I do, being good to the other fishermen, being good to the fish, and just learning and getting better. Yeah.
I love it, man. And we'll end it by talking about your music videos, which I mentioned. You got a new one out there with Monster Mike. I'll Be There, I think is the name, right? And then The Box is the other one?
I'll Be There in The Box remix. Yeah, man, like how these songs came about. Me and Mike, he's one of my good buddies, probably like my best friend in the fishing world. And we always hanging out, and we came up together, before he got popular on Instagram, on YouTube, and before I gained any notoriety. We were always cool, from the days when we had like a few hundred to a few thousand followers when we first met. We were catching Jack Crevel together, but we always had somewhat of an aspiration to make music or whatever. And I was like, man, you want to make some music, Mike? And he was like, yeah, because Mike kind of want to be a singer. And, I wanted to be a rapper, but I didn't really want to live a rapper lifestyle at the same time. So I was like, let's just make some fishing rap, something that we can relate to, something that other people can relate to in the fishing world, and give the fishing community a little flavor, a little spice. or whatever, and, showcase our other talents at the same time. So we got in the studio, and with the I'll Be There, it took us about a day to compose it. Mike came up with the melody for the hook and whatnot. I did the verse. We got in the studio. We had good chemistry. And we just laid the track and we just gave it our energy and our vibe, and it came out pretty smooth. Then we went out, we shot the video, we did the video in a day, and we just had fun doing it, you know, and it came out pretty good. I like to say,
Yeah, no, I loved it, man. It actually was really good. I'll make sure to put embed it from YouTube on the show notes, so you guys can all hear. Yeah, you can tell you guys are having fun, and some, if you listen closely, some pretty funny lyrics. It's all about fishing too. So it was good.
All about fishing, man, having fun. Stuff we can all relate to, and then give you a good vibe. Something to ride to while you're on your boat, while you're getting out there. To get you hyped up for the sleigh or whatnot. And then we dropped the Roddy Ricch remix one day when we were just riding in the car, and we heard the song or something, and we was like, yo, we like that beat, man. I'm like, Mike, I like that beat. We need to do a remix of this. He was like, yeah, let's do it right now. So we immediately started writing or whatnot, and we came up with the verses. He just remixed the hook. We went and dropped it. A few days later, we jumped straight to the video. And like with the video, we wanted to make it a little appealing, to the fishermen, but also to people on the outside to kind of showcase our talent to, a broader audience or whatnot. So we put the nice cars in, we put a little fishing in and stuff like that. But our next video, we wanted to kind of make it like a hardcore fishing video. So we might be on like a big, nice boat, and we just might spend a whole day on the water trying to get it in like that. And we want to make these anthems, So like for each season, for every time of year, when you need something and you out on the water and you want a good vibe, some good music to listen to, something that a fisherman can relate to, but have a little sauce with it, man. That's what we want to do.
I love it, man. Well, my friend Boris, this has been fun. I see we're almost at an hour, and I think we could probably do a version 2 of this because this has been so fun. I still have more questions to ask you. Maybe we'll have to do it out on the water. And tell everyone, where can they follow you? What's Instagram is your main spot?
Yeah, you can follow me at Instagram at Draggunning Junkie, a man that prays, a man that slays in Jesus' name. Everybody be blessed, man. I also have a YouTube coming up. I'm going to start posting on that in the next week, dropping good content, dropping tutorials. I want to be working with you guys at Salt Strong, a lot more. Yep. And do stuff like that, And that's about it, man. But if you're looking for me, you can find me on Instagram at Draggunning Junkie. That's the best place to find me.
Cool. And for everyone I know we got a lot of people listening in the car and working out and stuff. We will put all the show notes and links to Boris's stuff, and we'll do some of the music videos, and that'll all be at saltstrong.com/podcast. So saltstrong.com/podcast, and let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll both be on there answering them, and then we will definitely be in contact with Mr. Draggunning Junkie himself to do some more videos and tutorials and actually get out there on the water. This has been super fun. You're
looking forward to it.
A wealth of knowledge, and this is a really entertaining one. So it was awesome, brother.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to getting out there, having some fun, man, and continuing to share this knowledge and, learning as we go.
Yeah, buddy. All right, guys. Well, thank you for everyone who stuck around to the end. You guys rock. We can't do it without you. And if we can help you or serve you in any way, let us know. You know where to find us, saltstrong.com. We out.
Cause fishing, it's in my soul.